How good of you to come. Hi, I'm Cameron Brown. Welcome to the Cameron Brown Studios. You know, here at the Cameron Brown Animated Studios, we take pride in all of our animated works we accomplish here. But that would not all be possible if it weren't for one man.
Hi, Mr. Cameron!
Oh, what's that?
Hey, Mr. Cameron, it's me, Billy the Ball!
Oh, well, if it isn't our friend Billy the Ball. How you doing, Billy?
Hey, Mr. Cameron, are you gonna talk about your inspiration, Walt Disney, again?
God damn it, Billy! You know I did this whole freaking intro trying to explain that I was gonna do Walt Disney, and you ruined it in the span of 4 seconds. Remember the last time one of you animated freaks spoke out of line? I sent her through the shredder. You want that, Billy? Want to end up like your wife? But yes, I will be talking about Walt Disney today, or more in fact his inspirations. So sit back and relax while I show little Billy here a lesson.
Ah, yes, a genius, a legend. There's no denying that Walt Disney was a mogul at movies. Now, some people might say that Walt Disney was just a simple man with a dream. Others may say that he was one of the greatest innovators of all time. And some crazy people might say that Walt Disney was sexist and anti-Semitic even without having actual real proof.
But who inspires greatness? How do you inspire a man whose name is synonymous with inspiration? And that's why we're here today, so my fellow classmates, sit back, relax, and enjoy my smooth, silky voice as we go through the inspirations of Walt Disney.
Let's go back to 1832, where Belgian physicist Joseph Plateau becomes one of the first to demonstrate the illusion of the moving image. To accomplish this, he used counter-rotating discs with repeating drawn images in small increments of motion on one side and regularly spaced slits on the other. He called his new device the phenakistoscope. As the years progressed, however, the phenakistoscope would be outdated by a newer, highly advanced, and sexier animation machine. But Cameron, I hear yourself asking, how could anything get sexier than this?
You kill me!
Well, my dear classmate, to answer your question would be the zoetrope, a machine kinda like the phenakistoscope, but instead of a dull, flat circle,
It became a crazy cylinder, yo!
although these two devices were marvels of its day, one man was still unsatisfied with the current state of animation and decided to innovate even further, and this decision would change the landscape of animation forever. Oh yeah, baby, I'm talking French. I'm talking about Emile Reynaud. What's that? You never heard of Emile Reynaud? Well, let me explain. Charles Emile Reynaud is a French inventor who is responsible for creating a new device called the praxinoscope, a more practical version of the zoetrope. But whereas the zoetrope only had small slits for limited viewing, the inners of the praxinoscope were covered end to end with mirrors, making for a more comfortable view. And Reynaud's praxinoscope only grew when he discovered a new technique that would change the course of animation history. He discovered that if he replaced the white backgrounds of his images with black backgrounds, he would be able to add in different backdrops and scenery to his moving pictures. And by combining these two elements, Reynaud discovered that his little device became a form of wonder and entertainment, and thus the theater praxinoscope was born, a miniature show in the palm of your hand. At the time, this was amazing. Everyone wanted one. Moms, dads, grandma, weird Uncle Joey who stays in your basement and threatens to lick your cat. Literally anyone, and it didn't matter that it only lasted 12 frames. It still left you awestruck and spellbound, unlike today's modern marvels. That's right, I'm looking at you, fidget spinners. But Reynaud still believed that his little device was capable of so much more. And so, he took his idea of the theater praxinoscope and turned it into a form of public entertainment with the theater optique! Now let me tell you, this was no easy feat to accomplish. Reynaud's theater optique had all the bells, cogs, and whistles of his theater praxinoscope, but supercharged! The biggest improvement to this theater optique was the 500 hand-painted slides he did. This would allow for a more cohesive storyline,
rather than just a 5-second loop of something playing over and over and over again. When the theater optique finally opened to the public, audiences were entranced at how Reynaud was able to bring still pictures to life through moving images in a coherent story. And why these concepts are now rudimentary, back then it was absolutely amazing that something like this could ever exist, and it ushered in a new wave of golden animation, one that the world had never seen the likes of before. We finally made it to the modern era, where the film industry is on the rise thanks to the invention of the film camera, and animation is becoming the next hot thing. So naturally, we're gonna start off with the animator you don't know. I mean, someone that was an inspiration to all. And this particular animator's name was Stuart Blackton of the Vitagraph Company, who made his first silent animated short in 1900 with the creation of the Enchanted Drawing, and with the newfound skills he picked up from that project, created a new series called Humorous Phases of Funny Faces. The animation process consisted of him drawing on a chalkboard and animating it using stop-motion technology. Let's go on to talk about one of my favorite animators, Winsor McCay, who in 1914 created something revolutionary to the animation industry. Yeah, I know I say that a lot, just go with it. This would be Gertie the dinosaur, who is considered to be the first cartoon character ever, according to most professionals in the industry. Now, Gertie wasn't presented in the normal 7-minute cartoon setup we think of today, but instead was part of a vaudeville act with Winsor McCay. What made Winsor McCay's show stick out was that Gertie could actually communicate with Winsor McCay. This was achieved by pre-animating Gertie so that she would coincide with McCay's script.
Now, will you be a good girl and make your bow to the audience?
McCay would do a myriad of stuff like telling Gertie to bow to the audience, or giving her treats, or scolding her for overacting, and all of the abusive crack of the whip.
Now will you raise your left foot?
Ah well, the show still proved to be a success, paving the way for other creators to make a fortune off of their cartoon characters. Can somebody say Mickey Mouse and Walt Disney? Next, we have Joseph Randolph Bray, who owned the Bray Cartoon Studios. Now, Bray became an animation giant due to his new method for animation. Now, this new method was the animation assembly line. This method allowed animations to get by faster and more efficient, which made Bray's character, Colonel He's a Liar, one of the first animated characters to ever appear in a series. This innovative technique is important because this new method would be a staple of the Walt Disney Company years later. We also had animators like Raoul Barry, who was one of the first people to make a studio that was solely for animation, and with this all-animation studio, he helped produce the animated segments for a series called The Grouch Chasers, starring his character, Silas Bumpkin. Well, it's time to talk about our next famous animator, Earl Hurd, and I hope you've heard of him before. Guys, listen, just pity laugh at least. I need recognition! Earl Hurd was an animator that worked very closely with J.R. Bray. In fact, Hurd and Bray actually came up with a new type of animation technique called animation cells, which was used for a very long time before the use of stupid computers. Hurd even worked on an animated series for Bray called Bobby Bumps. Yes sir, those two animators were an inseparable pair. And speaking of an inseparable pair, our next two animators on the list created a character that I'm sure leaves everyone feline fine.
Felix the Cat.
That's right, Felix the Cat, created by Pat Sullivan and Otto Mesmer. This is where I feel cartoons hit the mainstream, and this is all thanks to Sullivan and Mesmer's likable character, Felix the Cat. You see, Felix wasn't like other characters of the day. Felix had a personality. He could be mischievous, he could be likable, that's what everyone loved about him. Felix also had an undisputable, iconic design, with his big eyes, inky black body, and animal characterizations. Many characters were designed in the same vein as Felix, including one that would rival and even surpass Felix's fame one day. Well, we finally made it to our last animator, and this one happens to be one of my favorites after my boy Disney. This animator is actually a special case because not only was he one of Walt Disney's inspirations, but their studios even butted heads at one point just so they could decide who was the king of the animation world, and we can all see who won that battle. So, I finally can't wait to tell you about one of my favorite animators, Max Fleischer! Billy! Even if you've never heard of Max Fleischer, you've definitely heard of his work. He's the mind behind such classic characters as Popeye the Sailor Man and my cartoon wife, Betty Boop.
I mean, hold on, what? I didn't say that. You can't prove anything.
And a myriad of other characters that we've come to grow and love. But wait, there's more. Max Fleischer also made a series of cartoons that were pretty critically acclaimed, including one called Swing You Sinners, which is a lot darker than most Disney cartoons. But we're here to talk about accomplishments, and Max Fleischer set the animated world on fire when he created a new technique called rotoscoping. This is when a live-action actor is filmed and animated over, so the character can have more fluid human-like movements. Heck, you can find that Walt Disney found it useful because he practically used this in all of his films. But the film series Fleischer utilized rotoscoping the most in was in his shorts Out of the Inkwell, which was a combination of animation and live action. In this film series, Max Fleischer would appear in the films himself while he's drawing and interacting with his very first character, Coco the Clown. Whoa! Did you just see that? Coco just did a perfect dab. Audiences loved the Out of the Inkwell series because they loved the quality animation and Coco's fun and charming personality. Yes sir, it really did seem like Max Fleischer would own the animation world. Yeah, if it weren't for those two meddling brothers and their mouse. Ah well, so Fleischer lost the war, but thanks to his contributions to animation, his work and characters will never be forgotten. We're finally at my final thoughts. It seemed like just 12 minutes ago I was talking to you guys about Joseph Plateau! Now, I don't know if these men actually inspired Walt Disney to go into animation, but that wasn't really the point. You see, all these men and Walt Disney have one thing in common. They're all innovators. They all decided to become masters of their crafts and then some, by pushing their boundaries to new heights and new levels. They dared to do the impossible, and most of all, they built off of each other's ideas. You can't have Snow White without rotoscope, you can't have Felix the Cat without Gertie the Dinosaur, and you can't have a zoetrope without a phenakistoscope. In the end, it didn't really matter if their names were remembered, because their legacy still lives on through animations today. As Walt Disney once said, "You can design, create, and build the most wonderful place in the world, but it takes people to make that dream a reality." And I'm glad I was here to tell you about Walt Disney's inspirations. So, I've been waiting to say this the entire video. Hey, Mr. Cameron! Hey, Mr. Cameron, were you about to say thank you for watching the video and I'll see you next time? God damn it, Billy, you son of a...
Oh